Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the show that is still trying to figure itself out. Its identity, its beliefs, its pronouns. Now that football season isn't happening until August. Welcome, everybody, to Dad's Turn to Talk. My name is Derek. I'll be the moderator for this evening. I am joined here this evening by my friends, my peers, my colleagues, my entrepreneurs. Allow me to introduce them to you at this time. First of all, let me introduce you to a man who is just about to figure out how lightsabers are going to really work in the Star Wars future movies. He's just about there. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob. Bob, how are you?
You know what, Derek? I realize I'm not any closer to figuring that out. Supposedly, I thought I knew how they worked, and then every time I turn around, Disney throws another curveball on that. So I still haven't figured out exactly how they work. Maybe the Acolyte will shine some light on that, but I doubt that. I'm sure they'll screw it up even more.
You know, I was just in Vegas, Bob. You could put some odds on that.
Well, isn't that a sure bet in this case?
I was about to say, you can make some money, maybe.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, one of these days we'll get it figured out. We'll do it right here on this podcast.
There we go. How you doing, Derek?
Good. Vegas was a blast. That's a whole podcast in itself. Not really, because we're boring. But other than that, very relaxing. Allow me to introduce our other co-star here, who has still found a need for the yellow pages because he's got to prop himself up on that seat somehow. The one and only Josh. Josh, hello.
Wow. Love you too, Derek. Oh, wow. My God. I am doing well. I figured. Look at that. You're matching. You have a red t-shirt. You have the red soda. Good God. Now you just need some red hair on that head, and you'll be good to go, my friend.
No, my face is red. I don't have to worry about that.
God, that is true. I am doing well. Getting ready to head to Mexico on Sunday. Very excited about that with the family. Get some R&R. I'm glad you guys had a great trip. Happy anniversary to you and the missus, by the way.
Thank you for that.
I know it was last week.
Yep.
And I'm ready to talk some Cape Crusader tonight. I'm excited.
And folks, with that, Josh basically now just stolen my introduction. Thanks a lot. If you wanted to moderate, you should have taken this. But since you're
then why don't I take over?
Bob, hit him.
Jeez, man, Josh, I good Lord. I mean, yeah, you gave it away right from the get-go. We hadn't even said anything yet.
All right. So I'm going to try this again. Josh, no commentary while I'm doing this until I call on you, like the teacher in the class. Thank you. This is going to be all things like Josh ruined just now. This is going to be all things Batman. All things Cape Crusader.
The Batman.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Appreciate that. Well, so it's all items Cape Crusader, this fine episode. What we will do is we'll start off with just a little bit of an overview here, and I am going to ask a question to you both. Do you know when the first issue of Batman was released? Comic.
It was I wanted to say it was in 1939, but I can't.
That's what I was going to say.
But I can't give you the date.
So it's funny how this works. You first see Batman in 1939. The first comic of Batman is 1940. Came right after that.
Okay.
Oh,
that's
really?
right. Because he made his first appearance in Detective Comics.
There we are. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So needless to say, Batman's been around for a little while. And I've got all sorts of pages of notes here to prove it with what we're going to be talking about tonight. I will start off by sharing my first experience when I first saw Batman, because I actually remember this. I had a mom and dad who owned an optometry store in like the heart of the financial district of San Francisco. One day I'm in summer, off school. My mom decides to take the day off and take me to San Francisco, bring me in, show me some sights. Well, around San Francisco, when things were actually alive back then, there were a bunch of newsstands around. And one of them was right next to the Charles Schwab building, which was right next to my parents' office. And I walked in and I must have been like 3 or 4. And that was the first time I saw a Batman comic. It was right in front of me, right when I walked in. And I had no idea what it was about. As a matter of fact, I thought it was about a bad guy. because I didn't know how to take, seeing
That's
a guy
funny.
just bat like that. And my mom, who knew very little, I asked her, Mom, is that a bad guy? And she's like, no, that's like Superman's friend. He's a very good guy. And I'm like, that's a good guy? And then my world changed from the comic book perspective. And he was really my first introduction getting into the comic book world. So thank you, Batman. Josh, why don't you tell us about your first exposure to the Dark Knight himself?
I would say
Here we go.
that was good.
Good.
I would say there might be two instances. I used to watch the Super Friends cartoon, so you got a little of Batman and Robin in there, and then oh my God, I'm gonna get crucified for this, but the campy '60s TV show.
Yeah.
That was in syndication then and in the '80s, and seeing Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and the Joker and all that. That's really when I can say I, got into Batman. And then, my parents got me, all the toys, and I think I had a Batmobile maybe.
I definitely had a Batmobile.
I'm trying to remember which one I had, but yeah, I would say those two were really the instances where I really got into it.
Did you have the Hot Wheels set?
No, I don't think I had a Hot Wheels.
I
had. Now it was interesting. I had all the little, Justice League toys. So I had, the Batman. I had Bobby always laughs at this. I had Hawkman. Like I'm a big Hawkman fan. Who would have thought, right?
Going outside
yeah, right. The Flash, Green Lantern. So had those toys, and yeah.
And Mr. Bob, sir, your intro and what you remember, first memories of Batman.
Well, I don't know why Josh would turn around and say that he would get crucified because of the 1960s or the campy show. I mean, that was most people's introduction to Batman from our age group. I mean, I remember watching the 1960s show, and that was my first introduction to Batman. Like Josh, I had the same toys. I had the Super Friends. I had the Batmobile, but I had the Batmobile from the 60s show, and I had the Batman and Robin that you could turn around and put in there with the also had the Joker and all of that, and I loved those toys. I loved that show. How could you not have fun with that? Pow, bam, splat. I mean, and then you had even the show actually began, I believe, with the movie, the 1966 movie, which then spawned into the TV show. And so, yeah, how could you not have fun with it? It was a great introduction to Batman. And then, of course, like Josh said, the Justice League toys, the Super Friends, all of that stuff. And then, of course, it just really took off with the 1989 film. I was 8 years old at that time, and I remember going to see it in theaters. I had a blast with it. So, and from that point on, I was a huge Batman fan.
And you just wait, folks. We're going to get there in just a few minutes. It should be very exciting. That show, by the way, starring Adam West in the 60s, that went from 1966 to 1968. And it's still memorable to this day. We're already talking about the toys. I remember specifically, and I think you guys would too, the Justice League cartoon show.
Yeah.
Where they had the Justice League and the Injustice League, and it was all the villains going up against all the good guys. Lex Luthor was the guy who kind of headed the operation. You guys remember this?
I'm trying to remember that. I don't. Bob, do you remember that?
I do remember back when there was something along those lines. I just don't remember it like very vividly.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite shows to watch. So me with my Hot Wheels set watching that show, you would have pretty much thought I was an addict, which became to all things comics I was. I'll own up to that. So in terms of everything else with the comic, the merchandise, the toys, the exposure to like that first level in the 60s, it was successful even before the movie franchise truly started. People were fans. The only comic book at the time when Batman was released, the only comic book that matched it in terms of popularity was actually Superman. And that's how the DC universe actually kind of got formed. It was because they were both the two most popular comics at the time. So that is an overview of Batman. What do you guys say we get a little bit into the eras themselves?
Sounds good
Let's
to
do
me.
it. Let's do it.
I'm Batman. All right. Let's do it. So,
The Batman.
all right. Let's start off with the first era, which is actually the Tim Burton era. Folks, if you are our age, you remember this movie all too vividly. This movie came out in 1989. It was directed by Tim Burton, and it was actually written by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron. So Tim Burton actually didn't write this one, but he did direct it. And I can't remember who the producers were, but that's not the biggest thing that came along with this. However, what we will talk about is the budget for this movie. You guys want to take a guess?
Oh God, I just watched. What? Go ahead, Bob.
Trying to think 1989 budgets and stuff. I'm going to say maybe 35 million.
You got a guess, Josh?
I'm going to say 28 million.
Bob got a little bit closer. It's actually 48 million.
Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. But don't worry, they more than covered that at the box office. This took in $411.6 million.
And that is a profit.
That's major profit.
Hey, when you figure inflation, boy, that thing probably would have made over $1 billion now.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Yep. Easily. And to start off the Burton era, we had one heck of a Batman who kicked us all off. The incomparable Michael Keaton was the first Batman, and who a lot of people have said is the best Batman still.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue because I love me some Michael Keaton, and I love me some Michael Keaton as Batman. But in this first version of it, we did have another guy who was the Joker in the film. And as you can see, he's a happy guy. Mr. Jack Nicholson. I do a terrible Jack Nicholson. I'm not going to do that again.
That was too bad.
Vicky Vale, played by Kim Basinger. Oh, that wasn't hard on the eyes. And I just have to just say this because I think it's hilarious. Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams. I just need to get that out there.
Yep.
And this movie set the tone pretty much for like everything else we would experience down the line. If you haven't seen this movie, it's actually one of the first like over 2-hour films I think I saw. It's really long. It's longer than you think, although it doesn't feel like it. It's just well done. I'll give my thoughts in a minute. Bob, why don't you kick us off with your thoughts of the film here?
I love it. Batman 89, I still think it. I think it's very much a product of its time. I mean, if you watch it today, I don't think it's matches up with a lot of the films in the comic book genre today, but there's a nostalgic feeling that comes when you watch it because you think back to how you were as a kid when you saw it, and it was just something that was enjoyable. And like you said, it really kind of set the tone for the Batman films going forward. I mean, you know, just Batman's costume alone, for example, it was a black costume, and he's pretty much had a black costume in film ever since then. There's only been one film that I can think of where he didn't have a completely black costume. And we'll get to that as we go through the eras, but just right there, that set a tone. And I just overall, I thought it was a fun film. I agree with you that Michael Keaton, he's one of the best Batman. Now, he's not my favorite, but I can understand why somebody would say that he is the best Batman. Yeah, he was really good. And a lot of people forget that at the time, he wasn't exactly the most popular choice to play that role, but he did a great job with it. And then, of course, Jack Nicholson was great. And in fact, he stole the show every time he was on screen. So it's a great film.
Very good. Mr. Josh, sir, your thoughts?
I mean, I loved it. I remember going with my sister to see it and was just sitting in the theater in awe. I thought I liked Michael Keaton, even though people were not happy with Mr. Mom playing Batman. I mean, how cool, guys, was that beginning when the family gets robbed and the guys are up on the roof and you see Batman just coming down and then attacks both of them. I mean, it was such a cool entrance. Jack Nicholson playing the Joker. I mean, he was amazing. You know, I was in awe of him when I first saw him. And it was scary. Like when he got thrown into chemicals and a hand comes out and it's white with the green nail polish. And then, he's getting the surgery done. Let's see how we did. And he looks at him and just breaks the mirror. And, the old veteran, Jack
Mirror.
Palance, who was
Mirror.
in there? Yeah. What's funny, here's a little trivia. We mentioned the gorgeous Kim Basinger playing Vicky Vale, who was originally cast as Vicky Vale.
Who was?
You guys know?
No.
It was, oh my God, I just lost my, I'll tell you right now, because I had just looked it up. Sean Young.
Sean Young was supposed to play Vicky Vale.
So are you guys ready for this? We'll go a little off topic. So, because I just watched this in a documentary. There was a scene where Tim Burton wanted Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale to ride horses around Wayne Manor. Bob, have you heard this?
No.
And she was apparently terrified of horses, but she went ahead and did it and fell off the horse and injured her neck. And they ended up casting Kim Basinger instead. Even though she was pretty much healed, they decided to go with her. And she was not happy. And I'll tell you more of a little bit of the story later, so I don't ruin anything. But, but I thought she was great.
So she fell off her horse and lost her job.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And there was a law.
Why so serious?
That's crazy. You fall off the horse and you lose your job for it.
Yeah, it was like they didn't go and cast. And by the way, Derek, you mentioned something about the producers. One of them was Jason Peters, who wanted to direct the Superman movie with Nicolas Cage. And that was a huge mess with him and Tim Burton. They did not like each other at all.
Aren't you glad that Nicolas Cage Superman movie didn't happen?
Oh God, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
I kind of would have liked to have seen it happen just to see what a disaster that would have been. You know how sometimes you can't help but watch a car wreck. You know it's bad, but you can't help but watch it or look over when you're driving. When you're driving on the highway and you see a car wreck, you can't help but turn over and look at it and be like, "Oh God, that looks horrible." And you're sitting there just still watching it as you're passing by. That's how that would have been. Seeing this Superman movie, it would have been a disaster, but you wouldn't have been able to not watch it,
right?
As opposed to the most recent Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh God,
which I watched.
Of course you did. My complaint, the only complaint I had really with the original Batman, is that they killed the Joker.
He had to get his at the end, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have Arkham Asylum in that one, right? There was no Arkham.
No.
You got to remember, Josh, that was back during the time where in the comic book movies, they didn't exactly use the villains over again. It was a common thing for them to turn around and kill them off and then just kind of move on. I mean, there was, the instances like with Superman where Lex Luthor would go to prison, but I'm pretty sure Zod and Ursa and them and Superman 2 didn't make it out alive.
Yeah, no
kidding. They went right into that ice.
So it wasn't exactly uncommon, and I don't think they ever thought that they would ever use the Joker again. I mean, you're making a movie, you're not even sure if it's going to be, if there's going to be a sequel to it.
That's a point of order, and this is going to get into the next piece of business here. Tim Burton did not want to do another one. This was it. This was
not.
There you go.
Yeah. So if that's going to be the way it is, okay, Joker's got to go. That's it.
Yeah.
So the fact that he thought that this was going to be it was probably why he did make it over 2 hours, because he wanted to make something pretty epic, and he did. As a matter of fact, if you watch this movie and you hear other future movies about, it's a Tim Burton film, there's a certain image you have in your head of what a Tim Burton film now is, and it always links that back up to that for me. There's just something that meshes with that. And that's what makes Tim Burton films so much fun, is because you're going to get something very artistic and very out there. And the other thing
a very specific look, a very specific soundtrack. They all have Helena Bonham Carter in it, and they all have Johnny Depp.
That's true. Well, this one didn't.
Maybe not back then, but they all do now. So
yeah, that's true. And I also remember vividly the car. The car was a big deal.
Oh, I
That
love
fire
that
that
car.
shot out of it.
Oh, that was so good.
So good.
So good.
So really, folks, there's not much more we can say about the '89 one other than go back and watch it. And to Bob's point, it is tremendously of the time. It's very '80s, early '90s, but you're still gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Still gonna have a blast.
Yeah, it's just got a nostalgic feel to it that even though it hasn't necessarily aged well compared to the other films, it's still fun.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy it for what it is.
What do you want? Sing to dance, Batman's head on the lance. By the way, what do you know about that?
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
That's right. That's a good one. I forgot about that one. Good call. All right. Well, the next one coming up has to do with the sequel we wouldn't think we would get.
Yeah.
It is Batman Returns. This is 1992. June 16th. This is the one that comes out. Apparently, there was some saga and some drama with the writing that happened in the first one. And Tim Burton made it pretty clear he did not want Sam Hamm, one of the writers, back. He wanted to be the one to write it. So he did just that. And he did it with another, I think it was the other producer that did the first one. What was his name? Going back here, Warren Scarron. So I think it was Tim Burton and Warren who did that one from a writing standpoint. So he also got a lot more creative control with this one. He was mad at the first time about the fact that he was just told what to do. And this time he really wanted to make it one of his own, which...
That explains some things.
Yeah, it still does. But I thought it was a fascinating read when I was doing my research. So to get into the details here, it was actually written by also a guy by the name of Daniel Waters. So it was between Tim Burton and Daniel Waters who actually wrote the screenplay. The budget for this one, interestingly enough, was it's unknown. It's a big range from 50 million to 80 million. Which I thought was an interesting jump because it's like, well, I mean, that seems like things just weren't really looked at from a dollar's perspective. That stuff's usually pretty on the money. And at the box office, didn't do as well as the first one did. 266.8 million is what this took home.
I think there's some reasons for that, and we'll get into that here.
Okay. I thought it made more than
when
the
I'm
first
talking
one
about
for some
it.
reason.
Because I think there's a very specific reason why it didn't do as well.
And I think I know why. Too. I'll be curious to see what you say, Bob.
Let's get into that. Let's just finish up some details here. So we all know that we're still in the Burton era here, which means Michael Keaton's playing Batman again. The Penguin, played by, of all people, Danny DeVito.
Feature my French flipper trick.
Elections happen in November. Is this not late December?
Or it could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood.
Another guy who is shocking, who made an appearance in this movie, is the one and only Christopher Walken, playing Max Schreck.
I thought he was great in this movie.
Yeah. It was the Christopher Walken movie.
And never to be outdone, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, dear God. Dear God, bless her.
This got me when I was 11 years old, and I figured out very quickly that what a woman should really be, and I can't get it out of my head to this day. Thank you, Michelle, for everything.
And whoever designed that outfit, oh God, yeah.
and do you know who was supposed to play Catwoman instead of Michelle Pfeiffer? Annette Bening.
I'm glad they went the other way on that one. So
yeah. she got pregnant. She got pregnant, and they said okay. And then our Sean Young shows up in Tim Burton's office dressed as Catwoman, wanting to be Catwoman. They had to throw her out.
So she hates horses, but she likes cats. Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, apparently.
She has no problem with felines. All right.
God bless Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh
yes. Oh
yeah.
It's just it's very nice. It's very nice. So I'm going to just start off by saying that I remember the marketing and the merchandise being everywhere for this, like even more than the first one. So even though this didn't make as much money at the box office, people made money because it was everywhere. I think McDonald's had a whole campaign with them. I saw them at Target.
Yeah.
They were in the grocery store. Like everywhere you turned, you saw this. And whoever put that together did a genius job. And it is a Tim Burton movie yet again. And it even gets a little bit more Burton with the carnival stuff.
Yeah.
It goes outside the box on that level. It's not a bad movie. There's the performances between the main characters in it are good. But it doesn't hit like the first one did, in my opinion. Still a lot of fun. You still get the Batmobile. There's still a lot of great pieces that make it very Tim Burton-esque. But all in all, something wasn't connecting here. And that's just my personal opinion. Josh, why don't you start, and then we'll head over to Bob with his thoughts.
I agree with you, Derek, about that. There was something that was, I don't know, in a way, it was almost like it was, this documentary I watched was saying it was almost like the villain show. And like Batman was taken out of this. The intro, no surprise, I loved when, they destroyed everything in the Christmas tree and the Batmobile comes through the snow and he, hits the buttons and those blades come out of the side and it nails the two guys on the motorcycles. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. It was interesting because as you were talking, I was saying the part when Penguin overtakes the Batmobile and, they're all over. And then all of a sudden Batman makes a joke and it was like Michael Keaton, and it was the first time throughout the whole series that he made the joke. He made a joke as Batman. It didn't necessarily stick with me. I thought the original was so much better. The ending was interesting. Apparently they were going to do a Catwoman spinoff, based on, 9 Lives and all that.
Wish they had.
That would have been good. That would have been good with her. Instead, they did the Halle Berry one years later. That just did not work.
Let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, was it horrible? No, it was, it was okay. Is it something that I'm like, oh, I got to watch it again and again? No. But, for a sequel, it was okay. What do you think, Bob?
I know a lot of people that actually rank this pretty high on lists of rankings as far as the Batman movies go. Now, me personally, I wasn't a huge fan of this as opposed to the first film. Not that I didn't like it. I did like it. I had the toys from it, and I remember watching it over and over again because, again, I did enjoy it. I just liked the first film better. But I think the biggest reason this didn't make as much at the box office is there was a lot of pushback from parents because this film was a much darker film than the first one. Bingo. And so there was an actual campaign by parents to kind of push back on this. And I do think that affected it at the box office. Now, I do think the casting was pretty good for this film. Danny DeVito was fun as the Penguin. He's different than what I kind of expect from the Penguin. They made him more of a creature than he is, what he actually is in the comic. And Michelle Pfeiffer was great. Again, I actually did like Christopher Walken in this movie. I thought he was fun. I love that scene right where Michelle Pfeiffer's like, it's not like you could just kill me. Actually, it's a lot like that. And then he gets ready to push her. And he's like, huh? And she's like, oh, I thought you were serious. Boom! He pushed her out. So, I thought he was fun.
Remember movie. Chip? Remember Chip, his son?
Yeah. Chip. As a whole, I thought this was a fun movie. Again, I think it's very much a product of its time as well. Sure. But I agree with you, Derek. It's got a lot more Tim Burton feel. And like you said, if he was writing it, that explains a lot because it does have a different feel from the first film. And it is a lot darker.
Yeah. And after this one, he really was done. He didn't want to do anymore. He stuck on for producer of one more, which we're going to get into in a minute. But it took him like basically pulling teeth for him to do this twice. So,
Right.
Tim, thank you for your era of Batman. We were raised on that, so we're greatly appreciated. We're sorry that Helena Bonham Carter didn't get in it, or Johnny Depp. But luckily, Edward Scissorhands came a little bit later, so that's when all the Johnny Depp stuff started. So you were fine. Don't worry about it. So thank you, Tim Burton, for your era. Now let's talk about an era that isn't so awesome. And if anybody likes this, there's going to be problems. This is the Schumacher era. We're talking about the director Joel Schumacher.
Oh God.
And
why so serious?
You know what? Good question, Heath. Thank you for asking me that. So, the first Joel Schumacher film was Batman Forever. This came out June 9th, 1985. Remember how I said that Tim Burton actually produced one more? This was the one, and then he got out while the getting was good, and who could blame him? Also, Peter McGregor Scott was one of the producers on this. We also had the fact that it was written by Lee Batchelor and Janet Scott Batchelor, so a married couple wrote this, as well as Akira Goldman. So those were the three people who wrote this, and maybe it was just better if you had one mind that could focus on this, because those three minds just made a calamity, in my opinion. The budget for this was actually $100 million, which makes sense because there's a lot of fancy stuff in this one. But at the box office, hey, money talks, $336.8 million. So it didn't do so bad. Made more money than the second one did.
There's a good reason for that.
We'll get there in a minute. The Batman in this one is Val Kilmer. Nothing against Val Kilmer at all. I could list off a few movies that I'm a big fan of Val Kilmer in. Shout out Tombstone. But we do have Tommy Lee Jones playing Harvey Dent, a.k.a. Two-Face. Jim Carrey.
Looks exactly like Billy D. Williams, right?
Yep, hit it right on the head. Jim Carrey playing Edward Nygma, a.k.a. the Riddler. Nicole Kidman is Dr. Chase Meridian, who's also very nice, but I just have something about Michelle Pfeiffer. Sorry. And then, of course, Chris O'Donnell, who played Dick Grayson, otherwise known as Robin. So that is your cast for this movie. I'm going to let you guys start before I give myself a headache. Bob, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Batman Forever is a movie that I'm torn on. And the reason why I say I'm torn on it, because from all the measures, it's got everything wrong with it. And yet there's a lot in this movie that there's actually to like as well. So it's one of those movies I'm torn on. Like I said that it did well at the box office. Well, you had Jim Carrey in as the Riddler, and that was a box office draw at that time. He was already beginning to make a name for himself, and so it makes sense. It had a good cast, I thought, and Val Kilmer, I don't think he was bad in the role. There was some stuff I thought that was pretty cool, but there was just some stuff that's just way too different from the previous films, like Gotham itself, all the neon look that it's got. Where
Schumacher,
where in the first two films it was a lot darker, so I didn't particularly like that. It also had a different theme music from the first two films, and I was actually okay with the Batman theme from Batman Forever. It still doesn't hit though the same as the theme from the first two films. So again, there's some things in here to like. I actually liked the addition of Robin. I just don't like necessarily how it was handled. Yeah. So Josh knows this. I think Robin is very important to Batman's story, and I just don't think that he's given the same importance that he is in the comic books, and because he actually helps balance Batman out in a lot of ways, and you don't see that because they just ignore him when it comes to the films. And so I thought it was cool that they tried to include him. I just don't like the fact that they included him at a much older age than what he's supposed to be when he first comes under Batman's care. And I don't know. I just thought that it could have been handled a little bit different, but as a whole, like I said, it's not a horrible movie, but it's not a good movie. But just real quick, couple things before I pass it over to Josh. Soundtrack is pretty cool in this movie.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
So I like the soundtrack.
Kiss from a Rose. Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
And then you've got
You too.
Yeah, you do with Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me.
Good
and then you've got you mentioned Nicole Kidman, that bedroom scene where Batman shows up. Oh yeah, she looks pretty good at that scene. And then Two Faces, Two Ladies, one of whom was played by Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
Yes, also very nice.
Yeah, very nice. So, like I said, there's a lot to like about this. But there's also a lot of stupidity in this movie. I'm not going to put it any other way. There's a lot of stupidity. So, go ahead, Josh.
Go ahead, Josh.
My opinions are very similar to that of Bob. There are some things that they did right, and there were things that I did not like. Val Kilmer as Batman was pretty good. He's nowhere near my favorite, but I wouldn't
wasn't
say
terrible.
I almost, if I needed to use a word for him, maybe a little too stoic, maybe a little too just didn't have enough expression as Bruce Wayne, maybe.
Well, he is.
Yeah, true. That is true. I did not like Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. I really thought it should have been Billy D. Williams. That documentary I watched, Billy D. Williams wanted to play him. I think it would have been a very unique take on it. So that, and Bob knows this, and you know this, Derek. I am not a Robin fan. And I think it's because for me, the first movie I saw, in the theater was Batman 1989, and there was no Robin.
And it was wrong.
And I was okay with it. I get both your sides about having that Robin balances out Batman. I get that. I don't know. And by the way, Marlon Wayans was supposed to play Robin in the Tim Burton films. Isn't that funny?
That's crazy.
Another one. That, and then Bill Murray was supposed to play Batman. Yes, true story.
Glad they went the other way on that one.
And then, yeah, I know. I actually liked the Batmobile in this one. I thought it was, it's not my favorite one, but I thought it was kind of cool looking. But I agree with Bob on the overall look of Gotham was a little too silly and not, grungy and dark like it really should be. What else?
Don't forget the suits. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God. Yeah. The suits. Did they have the nipples on those, or was it the fourth one?
Yeah, they had those bat nips.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher put them on there. He was super proud of
God. Good God. Oh, my God. And then, but it's interesting because there's deleted scenes of this movie where I think it could have been better.
Yeah, there's a rumored Schumacher cut out there that actually has some of the deleted stuff back in the film.
Yeah.
It's a much darker film.
Right. Jim Carrey with the Riddler was good. My first person who I wanted was Robin Williams back in the day. I thought he could have made a really good Riddler.
Now, this was part of the Batman that was the untold. There was a whole thing that was supposed to happen there, a whole other movie that completely just disappeared.
Yeah, my understanding was Robin Williams was supposed to play the Riddler in that, and then it just fell apart.
Yeah, well, there's two rumors to that. The first rumor takes us back to Batman 89 when Warner Brothers went to Robin Williams and said, we want you to play the Joker. But they did that because they really wanted Jack Nicholson. And Jack Nicholson originally said no. And then when they went to Robin Williams, Jack Nicholson called and said, no, I want it. So Robin Williams was pissed off. And then what happened was when they were writing the script for Batman Forever, they went to Robin Williams. I think Schumacher actually flew out to, San Francisco to meet with him. And he said no. He was always very hurt by that.
It's too bad.
Jim Carrey was fine. The problem is Jim Carrey played the Riddler too much like the Joker.
That's exactly what I was going to say when I gave the review here.
True.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Is it my turn? Are you done, Josh? I didn't want to.
Yes, it is.
No,
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Let's get into this train wreck. Okay, so I'm not gonna say that Val Kilmer did a bad Batman either. You know what I actually think he did a better job of was playing
What?
Bruce Wayne.
Yes, yeah,
He was a great
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne.
I was actually going to mention that when Josh was talking about Val Kilmer, that when he said that he wasn't too bad, I was going to say, yeah, he was a pretty good Bruce Wayne. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, I thought he had exactly what the look should be. I think he had it spot on. It just didn't translate when he put the suit on. That was when things just got off. The fact that Tom Lee Jones played Two-Face like he did infuriated me. Two-Face is one of my favorite villains of all time. And the reason that he is one of my favorites is because of his simplicity. You know his story and you know why he's angry. He's not here to tell jokes.
Flip the coin. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they made his suit like neon on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, again, very Joel Schumacher, but no, we don't do that.
You didn't think he was similar to the Joker, Derek? Because I thought Tommy Lee played a Two-Face similar to the Joker more than the Riddler.
I thought that Jim Carrey tried to play the Joker more than the Riddler, and I think Tommy Lee Jones tried to follow playing Jim Carrey. Okay. I think that's what happened.
I think part of the problem is that Schumacher's films, you can definitely see the influence from the 60s television show.
Oh, yeah.
And especially in the next one when we get into that, but there's definitely an influence there, and there's this kind of over-the-top nature to these characters that just doesn't hold up today, that's for sure.
Now I'll give Jim Carrey this. I mean, there's a reason this guy was on the rise like he was. He was funny in this too. Like, that's one of the best lines when he pushes his boss out the window. Ooh, nice distance, but a little rough on the landing. He may have to settle for the bronze. Like, that's a very, very, very funny line. And
you know what scene I love with him is where when he's all dressed up in a suit, he's dressed up in the same suit that Bruce Wayne is at the party. It didn't even have the little mole.
Yeah.
Yes.
He glued like a little mole onto himself so he could look exactly like Bruce Wayne. I thought that was great.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll actually give it to Chris O'Donnell too. He did not play a bad Robin.
Now, no, he was okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And to Bob's point, and I didn't think about that. That was a brilliant take on that. The fact that Robin does tie so into Batman, he's such an important part of that story. I actually think for the job that Chris O'Donnell did, he did a pretty good one. It's just that when you try to put Robin into the story the way that they did, that's when you lost me. It wasn't that he did a bad job acting. It was just how the story played out for him from beginning to end in the movie. It was kind of more sad than anything, just the way that Robin was depicted in there.
But did Robin in the comic book? How did he lose his parents the same way at the circus, or is that totally different than what was portrayed?
I know they were murdered.
Yeah, it takes different forms depending on the different editions you go through. Like so like one was the circus. I think there was another like thing where he like his parents get like off like right outside of the circus. So I think it happens there. I guess but they're iced. He has the same story as Batman, which is why they get together.
And that's the thing is he brings a balance to Batman because he has the similar backstory, but he doesn't go fully dark the way that Batman does, and he brings a balance to him. And so I think that's why he's such an important part of Batman. I mean, if he wasn't, they wouldn't keep having a Robin. Even after Dick Grayson became Nightwing, they've still had multiple Robins since then because having that sidekick is important to Batman's story.
Yeah. And that's actually a big reason probably why he took Robin in to begin with because he felt that pain. He knew exactly what he was going through. He kept Robin around because he did balance him out. And he realized that there's a little bit of light in my life when he's around. So that's why there is a big importance when it comes to Robin.
You know which two scenes in that movie I actually like? I was just thinking. Bobby always jokes when Jim Carrey goes to Two-Face when Batman arrives at the party and he says, "Your entrance was good, his was better," or something like that. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, the Riddler tells Two-Face that after Batman arrives.
And then the other one was when Robin saves Batman and Val Kilmer is, Bruce Wayne is pissed. And Robin leaves and he's like, "I'll go ahead and leave my suit next to the bat suit." And Val Kilmer says that Bruce Wayne says something to Alfred, like, "You're encouraging the boy." And Alfred just lays into him.
He
in
just
a
tells
very
him that
subtle way.
He says young men that are seeking revenge, they need guidance. And it's just, he's kind of chastising Bruce for pushing him away.
Right. So, but anyway, yeah.
There's that voice of reason in Alfred again. Thank you, Mr. Alfred.
Yes.
All right. Well, the other part of this too, and I'll wrap it up with this, is just the fact that it's too much color, too much cartoony, too much Schumacher, I guess. That's not how I know Batman. And when you try and push that on me, it's just it's not going to compute. And it didn't when I saw this. So I don't know. I just
no.
Not
it was just too different from what came before.
Yeah.
That's
got a lot to do with it. And I think I was set on that when I saw the Tim Burton stuff. So when I didn't get it, I guess that's what disappointed me. But don't you worry, folks, because they say, it couldn't be worse. It can get worse.
It can get much worse.
Just you wait, folks, because here's what's up.
Here we go.
That's exactly right, Mr. Ledger. Here we go, indeed.
God.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we talk about Batman and Robin, the other Schumacher film?
We have to.
Yeah.
There was?
Yes, we're gonna talk about it.
Oh God.
Because this needs to be.
You're not sending me to the cooler. Winter has come at last.
Gosh, I should have had some clips from that. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I don't have any clips from this movie.
Oh God.
I couldn't make myself go look for any.
So cheesy. So cheesy.
We'll wait for that later.
Watch it.
All right.
Oh God.
June 20th, 1997 is when this disaster came out. It was also written by Akiva Goldman, who didn't think that enough of the first one he wrote was a screw up, or she for that matter. I'm not sure. Sorry. Also produced by Peter McGregor Scott, who I guess thought, let's try to make an even more terrible film. Let's go for that. The budget for this one, again, estimates, but far ones off, 125 to 160 million was the estimated budget for this. The box office, 238 million, so it made money. Why, I don't know, but it did.
Not that much.
You could argue that it may not have even made a profit because that's probably not factoring in marketing.
Yeah, actually, you might be right. They might have just broken even. So the cast for this one, okay.
Oh God.
George Clooney is Bruce Wayne. He plays Batman in this one because Val Kilmer wanted to run away from this as fast as he could.
Oh my God.
Arnold is Victor Freeze.
Let's have some clips, Bob. You have no clips of this disaster at all?
No, I don't.
Oh my God.
Chris O'Donnell actually thought, you know what? I can come back as Robin again, so he did. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. And Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl.
Oh God. Maybe I should have taken that Advil. I'll start. Oh my God. What a disaster from the opening sequence with them getting dressed and that video of the butt and the horrible Batmobile, which I hated, and the chicks dig the car. And then he's like, this is why Superman works alone. And it's like George Clooney. You're not Batman. You're not Bruce Wayne. It's George Clooney. I can't not see that. the way they did Bane in this movie was so bad. Oh my god, he was a wrestler, Derek. He was a wrestler, and just the only thing that he had was maybe the look. Other than that, it was like, oh,
Hey, I'll say this, Josh. Though you're bringing up Bane, they did have your boy John Glover in it.
they did.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
did.
He's the creator of Bane.
He is. And then Pamela, you look great. Oh, I just can't. And then the ice skates, and then the credit card. Never leave home without it. Oh my god, it gets worse, Derek. It gets worse.
It can always get worse. It can always get
worse.
Now I'm going to give Schumacher. I don't want to say I'm going to give him a pass, but he did state that he meant for it to be extremely campy.
Oh,
I don't understand why he would want to do that.
Mission accomplished, Joel.
Oh God, let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? Alicia Silverstone finding the Batcave, and Alfred had already taken her measurements for a bat suit.
That's kind of creepy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
How did he get the measurements?
Who does that? What did he stare at his knees?
That's taking a turn from the Me Too world awfully fast.
I mean, like, are you kidding? Suit me up, Uncle Alfred. Who are you? No. I'm back. Oh, I can't do it. No. I can't do it, guys.
Don't.
It's so.
Don't you mean that person?
Bad. Oh my God! And it's George Clooney. It's George Clooney. It's not. And then you have Elle McPherson, who's gorgeous, who's like in it for 2 minutes, and she's like, "I want a real relationship, Bruce."
But he's thinking about Poison Ivy the whole time.
Oh my God! I can't, Bob. You got to take this over. You got to take this over.
I don't want to.
Oh my God! It's like it's like flashbacks. It's Vietnam flashbacks. I'm remembering every single scene of this movie.
All right,
Bruce Wayne.
All right, Josh. So I went with John to go see this opening day.
God. Bobby's cousin.
Yeah, and
oh my
God! You with your family? Somebody needed to help you through this.
Yeah, I was wanting to see this, and then of course there's that opening sequence, like Josh said, where they're getting dressed, and we see a lot more rear ends than what I was expecting. And I don't know when I realized that this was going to be terrible, whether it was when they fall down and they click their heels together and the ice skates come out, or if when they're on the rocket and then they start using the doors to surf through the air.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my God.
So I don't know if it was those two parts that or which of the two. It was one of those two that I realized, okay, this is going to be awful. And yeah, it just kept getting worse and worse, just like Josh said. And just how stupid this thing is. Like, remember the scene where they're fighting Bane and Poison Ivy, and she's sitting there trying to kiss both of them, and she goes to kiss Batman, and he's like, "Oh no, oh no!" and then she's convincing Robin, "You should be without the big bat because everybody wants to go
I can't."
You know, and I'm like, "What? God, what is this? This was awful." Oh wow. This made the Phantom Menace look like Citizen Kane.
Oh my God. Line of the year right there. Line of the year.
And this was pretty bad.
Oh my.
Universal Soldier could have won an Oscar over this.
Oh my. Come on, guys. How bad was that Batmobile?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Awful.
With the racing.
Real quick. God. You mentioned Batgirl. I hated the fact that they changed her whole origin, that she wasn't Commissioner Gordon's daughter. That she was.
That's what makes it.
I know. She said she's Alfred's niece.
Yeah, I hated that.
It's so creepy.
Like when I was watching the movie and he first said, "This is my niece," and I was like, "What? What the heck?" And oh my God, it was. Yeah, go ahead, take over, Derek. I'm done.
Yeah.
I was
this
done
will be good.
The minute we started talking.
This will be good. This will be good.
And the Batman will be no more. which is exactly where this went, because they were supposed to make another one after this, and everybody was like, "No, trash that, put it away."
Wasn't it called Batman Triumphant? And there was
Yes.
like a
Batman
dream sequence
Unchained.
with Joker.
Batman
was
Unchained.
Batman
was gonna
Unchained?
be the name of it. Yeah, the villain was going to be the Scarecrow, and they were going to bring back the Joker as a hallucination in
Yes.
his head. Thank God that didn't happen. And
Yeah,
we
I don't
stayed
think
away from it for a while. This movie's trash. And when Bob sends us pictures of the dumpster on fire, that's exactly where you can put that. Right there. There's not much more to say about it other than that. You guys pretty much said it all, and it's painful to think about.
There's only one good scene in it.
Which was?
Which one?
Where that guy walks in as Mr. Freeze is watching the video of his wife, and then he ices him down. He's like, "I hate it when people talk to her in the movie." That's the only scene I like in the whole thing. No, the reason I like that scene is because there's several people when I'm sitting at a movie theater, I just want to turn around and ice down and be like, "God, be quiet." I watch the movie. That's the only reason I like that remark.
How about Jesse Ventura
my hero
in the
at
movie?
that point.
Remember Jesse Ventura in the movie?
Yes, he was there.
Don't mind us, ma'am.
Oh, yes, yes.
You can't escape the cold zone.
Believe me, everybody wanted to escape the cold zone. I'll sum it up with this, gents. When I went to the theater, I was with my dad, so I went with family as well to try to get me through this. He turns to me about a quarter of the way through it and gives me this look, like, and starts laughing. That says it all.
You know what? He killed Batman for 10 years.
Yeah, this was a franchise killer, actually.
Yeah, it was. They did not touch film again for quite some time. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Now, let's wash our hands of this. Let's because I have some good news. It gets better. It can always get worse, but now it gets better. We're going to jump around here because let's talk about something that didn't suck. This is a show called Batman the Animated Series. And this show is going to give us a breath of life and get us out of whatever trauma we were just experiencing, because this show is awesome. This show is on from 1992 to 1995. I thought it was longer, but I guess it was not.
Too.
Yeah,
well, really.
I think part of that is because you have the Superman animated show where Batman made some appearances. You also have the Justice League cartoon, which was, directly kind of came after the animated show as well as the Superman show. So the animated series just spawned so much.
It did.
Yeah.
And they had 4 different producers on this. Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Eric Radomski, Bruce Timm. None of these are names that people are going to know, but I got to give them their props. Because, they deserve every bit of praise that we're about to give them here. The folks involved in this, one was Kevin Conroy, who played Batman, an iconic voice. Another was Lauren Lester as Robin. Efren Zimbalist was actually Alfred. Bob Hastings was James Gordon, another great job. And, of course, Mark Hamill as the Joker. Mr. Luke Skywalker, I had no idea that was his voice until about a year after I got into this show. So when I found out that was him, I was shocked. This show is awesome in so many ways, but I will turn to you gentlemen to kick us off. Bob, why don't you go ahead?
I'm going to try to keep this as brief as I can because there's just so much you could talk about this show. But the big thing that I liked about this show is that this is not an origin story. And Josh knows how much I've wanted to see an established Batman in a show with an established rogues gallery. And that's exactly what this show does, because he's already Batman when the show starts. We're not seeing him from the beginning. He's got an established rogues gallery, and he's got all of his gadgets. He's got everything. Yeah, they do some look backs at certain things throughout the show. And of course, with the Mask of the Phantasm, the film that spawned from this, so they do look back at some things, but this is just really good. Like I said, everything's established. I thought the look of the show was great. It carried over the theme from the Batman '89 movie. this is easily the best representation of Batman that there's been. Now, obviously, on film, it's a lot different, but then because with an animated show, you can do a lot more. But this is the closest that we've gotten to the actual comic book, at least in my opinion. So I love this show.
Yeah. Josh, to you, sir.
I 100% agree with Bob. This show was fantastic. We got the introduction of Harley Quinn, which was really cool. Just this iteration of Batman was so good. I love the way like Bruce Wayne looked. He was, built, but he was also sophisticated. And then when he, was put in the suit, he was a menace, and he caused devastation, and it was awesome. Are we talking about favorite episode now or not until later?
We'll just do a little bit of an overall, and I'll give my thoughts, and then we'll get into notable.
Okay,
episodes.
I didn't want to spoil. Okay,
no,
and then I love the Batmobile in this one. I thought it was really cool. Loved the intro. Loved Alfred. Loved Mark Hamill as the Joker. Loved Two-Face in this, and loved Mr. Freeze. Just a great show. You would come home from after school from Western Hills, Bob, and I would watch the show. The show was so good. I wish they would do something with, well, obviously, oh God, they can't now because of Conroy passing away. I was going to say, wouldn't that have been great like they did X-Men 97? Do Batman the Animated Series, but you can't.
Too bad.
Yeah. Go ahead, Derek.
4:30 Monday through Friday was time where you did not speak to me. I am to be left alone. And that it was actually me and my sister. My sister, who's very artsy kind of herself, she works in advertising. She does, all sorts of creativity stuff. She loved this show because of how amazing the animation was. I'll get my homework done after. I don't care. This is my show. Leave me with my stories is how I refer to it. It's well done in almost every dimension. There's nothing not to like about this show. You can still go back and watch episodes of this, I think, on Max. I think they have them all there. And if you watch them, which I actually did one late night, they still hold up. All of them do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic array of villains, some of who are recurring, some of who you only see one time. The storytelling's fantastic. The actors who do the voices are fantastic, and especially a big shout out to Kevin Conroy. We lost him too soon. There's one story about it where Kevin Conroy was actually like a Broadway actor. Like he was in New York. He was very well known in the theater scene. And when they called him in to do Batman, he's like, I'm going to do, like, what do you want me to do with Batman? And then he saw shots of the way the show was going to be, portrayed. And he said, I get it. I'm in. And that's when he signed up, and that's how we came to know him today. There's everything about this is something that you can love. There's nothing. It's almost hard to even try to get a flaw on it. I just don't see it. So again, I mimic the same thoughts that you do. You guys want to talk about some notable episodes? Call one out.
Just a couple that I liked. I liked the two-parter that Two-Face was, or that Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. I thought that was a good two-parter. There's one particular episode. I think the name of the episode was "I Almost Got Him."
That's my
favorite one.
I love that. That is a great episode where they're all sitting around playing cards, talking about how they almost got him, and then. And I love it when Killer Croc turns around and tells his story. And,
and he's
threw a
rock at him. And they're all just like,
it was a big rock.
And then it turns out he was Batman the whole time. So,
what a great episode.
That was a great episode. Also, there was a two-parter with Ra's al Ghul. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And overall, like I said, this was just a great show. I thought they did a good job bringing Robin into the show because, again, this is an established Batman, so you have an established Robin with it. So overall, just great show. Can't say anything bad about it.
Yeah, Josh, to you.
That what Bob said, the one where we almost got him, was fantastic. I watched that maybe like a year ago, and it just so good. My favorite episode. I agree with Bob about also Two-Face. I thought that was very good. I loved how we had introduction of Man-Bat and Clayface in the series.
That's right.
So that was pretty cool. In fact, I think Man-Bat was the pilot episode. And
yes,
then
it was.
the other one I like is Heart of Ice with Mr. Freeze.
That's a good one.
I thought it was very well done. And there was another one I saw on YouTube. And tell me if I'm wrong, Bob, because you're the expert when it comes between Superman, the animated series, and Batman. It's the one where Superman is there and he dresses up like Batman.
That was Superman,
Bane
the animated series.
That was on a Bane?
Yeah, that was on a Superman show. He finds out, I forget the exact reason, but he knows that Bruce Wayne has gone missing or something like that, and so he goes to Gotham to help figure out where Bruce Wayne's at, and he runs into Robin, and so Robin is at this point is Tim Drake, and he's like, okay, well, we're gonna need to. In order for you to get the information you need, we need a Batman. And so he dresses up as Batman. And I thought there's this great sequence where Superman's getting whipped because he wasn't expecting Bane to be so powerful. And Bane takes this huge like statue and turns around and throws it on top of him.
Yep.
And then and they think he's dead. And all of a sudden he turns around and he pushes it up, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's impossible. And Robin's like, hey, he's been working out.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. There's another episode, I think I don't know if it's in Mask of the Phantasm or in Batman, where it shows how he gets the Batmobile. Did you guys ever see that? Where I guess the old one, and it was like from the comics, ends up getting like destroyed, and he hires this guy to help build the Batmobile. Did you guys see this one?
I don't remember that one.
It was like Gotham Motors instead of General Motors, and this guy. What happened was he got attacked by the Joker and his crew, and Batman saved him. And he was like, "Is there anything I can do?" And he's like, "Well, yeah. Matter of fact, you can." And he helps him build the new Batmobile.
Yeah, interesting.
So great show. Love that show.
Quick, one other episode I really liked was the one with the Gray Ghost, where Adam
West. Yeah,
yes, and I thought that was great because he was supposed to be like an early inspiration for Batman later on, and so I thought it was kind of cool having Adam West voice that character. And what was cool is in the episode, he's this actor who got typecasted and couldn't get other roles, which was a problem Adam West had.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's
very cool. Good show. Good for them.
I'm going to list out just a couple of them. Almost Got Him is one of my favorites too. So that's awesome that we unanimously gave that one.
Great episode.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
So it's very memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I also liked. I forgot about the one where you meet Mr. Freeze. If I remember that correctly, doesn't Victor Freeze give like some really cold speech with like a ballerina in a little circular dance?
It's his wife. It's his wife.
Right. It's really well done. And then like his eyes open and it's the red. It's very, very good. One of I'll give you two of my other favorites. I could go on, but we all could. One of them is The Man Who Killed Batman. It's this little schmo of a guy who accidentally causes Batman to like slip, and you think Batman's gone because he ends up like falling off a cliff.
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
Do you mean Ventriloquist and Scarface?
No.
But that's a good episode too.
It is. Yeah. It's just this little normal guy who you're just like, this guy?
Huh.
And everybody's mad at him because
so the Joker. So you talked about Harley. You talked about Harley Race, Josh.
Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
Not Harley Race.
Harley Race. Jesus. Long episode.
I knew who you meant, Derek.
Long podcast. Harley Quinn. You can tell where my mind is. Harley Quinn, I guess, like dresses up as some attorney and like gets him out of prison, but you don't know it's Harley Quinn. And so finally he's just like, hey, that was really nice of you, but I don't know you. Like, why did you get me out of there? And she goes, my boss prefers me to wear a smile when I go to work. And sure enough, it's Harley Quinn, and she drags him to the Joker. And the Joker doesn't think it's real. The Joker's like, this, no way. He starts laughing. He's like, there's no way you were able to pull this off. And sure enough, he goes, okay, let's see if you're right. And like breaks this bank window and goes, we're going to see if he's going to show up here. And he just sits back, and like 10 minutes pass, and he goes, he's never this late. What's going on? I don't know what to do with myself. And he gets so mad at this little schmo that he puts him in a coffin in a pool of acid.
Doesn't Harley Quinn during that episode, once he doesn't show up, doesn't she acknowledge that he's dead and kind of like give him a eulogy or something like that?
Yeah, like they do like this little eulogy where the Joker starts crying because and then it ends, and then the Joker goes, "Well, that was fun. Who's for Chinese?"
Oh
and then
my God!
The other episode I loved. This villain only showed up twice. It was a ninja. You guys remember this guy?
Ninja?
Yeah,
No.
I vaguely remember which character you're talking about.
Keep going.
Kenzo something, but it wasn't the first one that I liked. It was the second one that was really great because it ends up where Batman like has to go back to Japan because basically his sensei, Batman Sensei's daughter, gets kidnapped by this ninja. And so he has to fly back. The episode is like a foreign film. It's like a foreign action film. Like you have to read subtitles because they're speaking Japanese. And the episode ends where basically they're fighting on this volcano, and Batman finds a way to jump off while this ninja gets trapped like on a rock with a bunch of lava around him. And that gun it's not the gun, but it's the claw that he had. He tries to shoot it at the rock, and he says, come over here. If you don't get off this rock, you're gone. And the ninja starts freaking out, not knowing what to do. And he's like, Kenzo, let's go. And the guy all of a sudden just turns stoic and has this dead face. And he kicks the claw off, and he bows. And the volcano explodes. And that's how the episode ends. It's fantastic.
Wow.
It's really, really
That's
great.
cool.
Yeah. So, boy, we could go on for days with that one.
That's so good.
But let's move on because, guys, good news. It still doesn't suck. We're doing okay because now let's talk about the Nolan era.
The Batman.
You're right on cue, Killian. Here we are with the Christopher Nolan era. Folks, when we say that Batman and Robin took this into the toilet, it took it into the toilet for quite some time because the next rendition of Batman that was directed by Christopher Nolan entitled Batman Begins did not come out until June 15th, 2005. So they went on an 8-year hiatus. No one wanted to get near Batman after that last one was done. So luckily, we had the good fortune of having Christopher Nolan direct this one. It was actually
Real quick, Derek, before you go on, didn't Batman and Robin even partially kill the Superman Lives? Or I'm wanting to say that.
Yes, it did. It did. Yes.
I didn't get that on my research.
That was the final nail in the coffin.
Because it did poorly at the box office.
Okay. Yeah.
All
well,
right.
see, that's how one thing can lead to ending another. So thank you for that, Batman and Robin. Luckily, we're gonna revive ourselves with Batman Begins. This one was actually written by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, I think is his name. Yep. Produced by Charles Roven, Emma Thomas, and Larry France. The budget for this one was $150 million, and in this movie, you know where that 150 went. Yeah. And luckily, they covered the spades there. The box office, they took home $373.7 million, so not too shabby. We, of course, have the Batman being played by the great Christian Bale in the whole Nolan era. And I have a feeling Bob is going to knight this the best Batman, which I would understand as to why, but we'll get there when we get there. Also, had a great cast here with Liam Neeson, as we would come to know Ra's al Ghul. Katie Holmes plays Rachel Dawes. Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow, Dr. Crane. Tom Wilkinson as Carmine Falcone. And just to set the stage with the rest of the recurring characters throughout the Nolan era, you've also got the wonderful Michael Caine playing Alfred, who does a tremendous job. James Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, also a tremendous job. And yeah, and of course Lucius Fox, because you need Morgan Freeman's voice in in movies. He just does a great job. So those are the recurring characters. Who wants to kick us off here in terms of talking about Batman Begins?
Go ahead, Bob.
All right. Batman Begins is arguably the best Batman film out there. Now, I say arguably because I'm not saying it's my favorite. I actually think there's one better, but this is arguably right up there. And this does so many things right when it comes to Batman. First off, the casting in this film is phenomenal. Everybody brings their A game with this. Even Katie Holmes, I thought, was great in the role, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to think of her when I heard she was casted, because I was still thinking, Dawson's Creek, but
we all were.
But I thought she was fine. I liked her in this, and so, like I said, the cast really delivered. What I thought is that this film did a lot to bring Batman back to a grounded level after all the campiness of the one before. So I thought they did a good job with that. And I will say this, of the Nolan trilogy, the Gotham, I think, looks the best in Batman Begins, because it actually looks like Gotham City instead of looking like Chicago or New York or one of the others. Those were some problems I had with the other two Nolan films. But in this one, Gotham looks like how Gotham is supposed to look. It feels like a character in the story. So there's a lot that's done well in this. I thought how they did the Scarecrow was very good, because that could have gotten extremely cheesy, but it was done in a great way. And Cillian Murphy's great in this. I love it where he goes in and he's to talk to Carmine, and he's like, "Would you like to see my mask?"
Yeah.
These crazies, they hate it. And he's like, "When did the nut take over the nut house?" And next thing you know, he starts screaming. He comes out, "Well, that one's not faking it."
They scream and they cry.
So, yeah, there were so many things done right in this movie. And Christian Bale, I thought he did a great job as Bruce Wayne / Batman. I thought he was great. And I know Josh would love this movie because it's an origin story. So, overall, this is a great film, and it was a great way to kick off this trilogy.
To you, Josh.
All right. As you both know, I love origin stories, and I loved this one because we never got to see Batman starting out, because, as you know, in the Tim Burton ones, he was already Batman. I don't know how long was he Batman, Bob? Do you know?
It's not very long, because the police are still getting reports of this giant bat going around, and so they're not quite sure what to make of it. Like, Commissioner Gordon sees him for the first time when they're at Axis Chemicals. So
True.
Yeah, he hadn't been for very long, but you're right. You never saw that beginning where you saw his training and background that led up to it.
Correct. And it was just talking about grounding a superhero in realism. Like, if you think about it, where they, have hopefully I'm saying the name right, a tactical suit from the army almost, as his bat suit that he spray paints. And then the way he, made each one of his bat rings, and everything, and the mask, and how they use the cape, that it was a parachute, where you send an electric current so it takes like a rigid form. The Batmobile, not my favorite Batmobile, but I understand why they did it, because they wanted to make it as realistic as possible. Love Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I might have someone who might be my favorite, and I'll talk about that later, but I thought he did a phenomenal job. Loved Scarecrow. Loved Carmine Falcone. My favorite part in that movie is when he's where they're at the docks, and Batman's first appearance, and he's beaten all of them, and Carmine gets in the car and he's like, "Let's go," and the guy is dead or out, and all of us is like, "Who is he?" And all of us, "What is he?" And you see Batman come right through the car and pick him up, and he says, "I'm Batman," and headbutts him and knocks him out. And then the homeless guy who he gave his jacket to many years earlier is right there, and he goes, "Nice coat," and then goes up in the air with Carmine, and then uses him for the bat signal. So I thought that was really cool. I like the little, everybody thought that Ra's al Ghul was the one who burned down with the place. Everyone was like, nobody thought. I mean, I know maybe Bob, you thought, but I did not know Liam Neeson was Ra's al Ghul. I thought that was a cool thing they did at the end, and how they had in the newspaper, drunken billionaire burns down his own house. And
Just Ra's al Ghul immortal, or his method
exactly.
supernatural.
It was so good. I enjoyed that movie. It's right up there with one of the others that I love. What do you think, Derek?
So I think a big reason why people love Batman the way that they do is because they now think that the movies aren't comic book movies. They are much more real and much more relatable. Right. That's where this starts. It starts with this movie. And that's how they made it because they made it as realistic as possible. They left no stone unturned. Every detail is taken into account about making it look realistic. And that goes back to what Bob said about Gotham and making it look the way it did. It really is. Gotham is kind of its own character in that film. It's really, really, really well done. Good point on that one, Bob. The other thing that I thought they hit a home run on just about every stride is, in fact, the casting. And it's not just about the onesies and twosies that are in this movie. It's about the recurring characters as well. Yeah. I got to believe that they must have spent a huge amount of time trying to get that right. And they nailed it.
Gary Oldman is awesome as Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, really, he's so good.
And you usually only knew Gary Oldman from like his villainous roles, but then he comes in and he proves he can be the good guy.
He was great as Gordon.
Yeah, he was absolutely.
He's my favorite Gordon.
I loved the fact that Liam Neeson is the one who trains Batman, but then betrays Batman. That was a very fun way to tell that tale. And Liam Neeson's great in this movie. He is so subtle. There's something very, very, to use that word again, Josh, stoic about him. He's helpful, but he's not menacing. He's methodical.
No.
Well, the thing is, he has a very particular set of skills.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. He's immortal.
I keep thinking about Taken. I can't get.
See, that went over Josh's head right there.
Obviously, it did.
Yep.
It's from Taken, Josh.
I figured.
Now I'm going to think about that for like the next 5 days. So I
Josh is just sitting there like,
no, because I was thinking of what I was going to say. So I was thinking of my line. So that's why.
Yep. So anyway, I loved how they introduce, a couple different villains in interesting ways. I think Cillian Murphy. I forget the fact that Cillian Murphy himself is a recurring character throughout this series. Yeah. But really, this is where you see him shine. That scene when he sprays the gas with Carmine Falcone, he's great because he starts out the same way, very stoic, like very emotionless. And then you hear that little ominous music start, and that's when you see a little tick start to go off on him. And that's when he asks the question, "Would you like to see my mask?" And that's when I knew that if they wanted to, they could have done a movie with him as the villain, like a whole one, and it would have been great.
Yeah.
So they're like you guys said, there's nothing to dislike about this. I do think it is probably the best Batman movie. Don't worry, we're going to talk about another one here, and I got a different approach on that one. But cool. If you're looking for the all around best Batman movie from his story of his beginnings and how he becomes the superhero that he does, you're going to want to watch this movie. Give it another go. And this one will hold up probably through the test of time. There's nothing.
Very good.
This is really, really good. So that's great stuff. But boy, this next one's going to be hard to buck off the horse.
And here we go.
Exactly right. Like I said, this one's going to be hard to get off the horse. Sorry, Sean Young. This one is The Dark Knight. This one came out July 14th, 2008. We already talked about all the recurring characters in this. Let's also mention Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, Two-Face, tremendous. Maggie Gyllenhaal takes the place of Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. And do I have to say who it is? It's Heath Ledger as the Joker. Enough said. There's almost no way I thought that they could top what they did with Batman Begins. And they did. They absolutely did. I'm going to pass it over to Josh first. Then we'll go to Bob. Josh, please.
One of my all-time favorite movies, The Dark Knight. It is right up there. People ask me, what's your favorite movie? And I'm like, The Dark Knight. They think I'm crazy because they're like, with everything out, I'm like, it was done so well. From the opening with the Joker and basically robbing from the mob. Only the Joker would do that. And getting them all to, kill each other. And he's like, no, I kill the bus driver. Bus driver? Boom! And just so good. And then
he killed
Batman.
him.
I know. And then you see Batman come in, and they're like, what are you afraid of? You have a better chance of winning the lottery than running into him. And it was funny because that first scene with Scarecrow and the fake Batman shoots and he's like, no, that's not him. And then you see him take the gun and get rid of it and, attack all of them. It was amazing. And just Heath Ledger as the Joker from, oh God, can I do a magic trick? Would you like to see a magic trick?
Let's not blow things out of proportion.
Oh,
you know what I love about that scene right there where he's with the grenades is when the mobster turns around and says, you think you could just walk in here and steal from us? Yeah.
And then he lets it go. He pulls the plug and you think it's going to explode and it's just the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's such a Joker, trick. And then what else? And I just love how he doesn't forget. Remember the other villain with the guy with the beard who wants Joker dead, who can't stand the Joker? Joker always comes back. He ended up killing him. Remember, he's the one where he throws the money.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought that was cool. And then the other guy when they're playing pool, because he's like, I want the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that? And he breaks the pool cue and says, we're ready for expansion, but he only has one pull cue, a half of one.
And that's where you get that famous line.
Why so serious?
That's right. That's
true.
his first. Do you want to know where I got these scars? That's the first one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the first one.
And my favorite part of that movie is when they're at the benefit for the fundraiser for Harvey Dent, and there's that great scene with Maggie Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger, and she knees him, and he's like, "Oh, a little fight in you. I like that." And all of a sudden you hear, "Then you're going to love me," and boom, they start fighting. Love that. Love, Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, Two-Face. Love the makeup. Loved how they showed all those face muscles, sticking out, and how he was angry and just really hated life. But yet, as Derek said, the simplicity of it all, flipping the coin. What else? I was shocked about Maggie Gyllenhaal's character, about Rachel Dawes dying. It was a good, I didn't expect that. And then just the chemistry between Bruce Wayne and Alfred in the movie was great. And it was interesting because they gave us something different for once, where we've always seen the Batcave and Wayne Manor, and that was burned down. So where does he go? To a warehouse and, takes care of all of that. but yeah, it's just a brilliantly made movie. And we lost Heath Ledger too soon.
Yeah. Good.
Go ahead, Bob.
So, like I said, Batman Begins is arguably the best Batman film. This is arguably the best comic book film. Like, I think Batman Begins might be a better pure Batman film, yet this is actually a better comic book movie. And I just love, not just because it's a better comic book movie, but because it's just a great movie all throughout. I mean, it actually won Heath Ledger an Academy Award.
Yeah.
And that was unheard of at that time, that a comic book movie would deliver an Academy Award winning performance. But that shouldn't be a surprise with the cast that Nolan has for this movie. And just overall, like Josh said, this is an extremely well-made film. There's so much to like about it. Two-Face is so good in this film. I like this whole idea that the Joker turned around and tore him down and brought him down to his level, and I thought that was really cool. The way the film ends, kind of on this cliffhanger, I thought was really good. You see Batman have to be presented with a lot of ethical questions as far as how is he going to take the Joker down, because he has to do some things that would normally be outside of what he would do in order to bring him down. And part of that is because the Joker's not a typical villain in this movie. He wasn't interested in money. He wasn't interested in fame or any of that. Simply, he just wanted, as Michael Caine said, he just wanted to watch the world burn. He was just more interested in the chaos of everything.
Anarchy.
And so to watch that performance by Heath Ledger, to see it all played out, great movie. The only complaint I could have about this movie is that Christian Bale went from having a normal Batman voice in the first film to sounding like he's got throat cancer in this film. And, so because like there were moments when he's talking in the first film where, yeah, he's got that deep voice, but there are times it still sounds a little bit normal, where in this one, it's just that deep raspiness the whole time. So that was about the only complaint that I had about this film. Otherwise, this is a fantastic movie. And just kind of a little side story. I saw this movie. Well, I saw it twice in theaters. Both times I was at military training. I had gone to basic training and I just graduated when I first saw it. And then I saw it again when I was at AIT when we were on our first pass. And when I went to see it there, it was hilarious because we realized the entire theater was full of medics from my class. And the reason we knew that was because that scene where that guy's got that phone sewn into him.
Oh, yeah.
And, the medics look at him and say, it looks like he has some kind of contusion. Everybody in the audience just went, because we had just been studying on contusions and bruises and all this stuff. And it was just hilarious because it was like, well, you can't take a bunch of medics anywhere where we're going to turn around. I kid you not. It was the entire audience just, so yeah, but that was a great movie. I love The Dark Knight.
Jericho?
There's not much I'm going to be able to say different other than what you guys just said. It's awesome. It's the only thing I will say is this. Remember how I said that Batman Begins is the best Batman film?
Yeah.
This is the best Joker film. And that's no disrespect to Jack Nicholson. Okay, Jack Nicholson did a great job. But this was on another level. And the reason that it was was Heath Ledger made you walk out of that theater realizing just how important the Joker was to Batman.
Yeah.
They are linked together. He wasn't kidding.
His
yin to his yang.
Yep. That's what made me like that whole scene when they're in the interrogation room together.
Yep.
Kelly is making a choice. Like I remember that scene vividly. I also do remember the Two-Face scene. I thought Aaron Eckhart did a great job as both Harvey Dent and Two-Face. I will never forget. I went and saw this opening night. I will never forget when Aaron Eckhart turned his face to show that other side. The collective gasp that theater had was it still sticks out in my head. And I think one of the best scenes in the whole movie is when the Joker and Two-Face are talking. And have that moment. That is an incredibly well done piece of business.
Hi.
And that's do I really look like a guy with a plan? Like, and like he goes back to what you guys were talking about. Everything becomes chaos.
I love where he turns around and he's telling him, and what's her name? And
he's like, Rachel.
Yeah, well, I didn't do that. I was in Gordon's cage.
So good.
What is that's maybe one of the best scenes in the movie is when he gives him the gun, and he's you live, you die. Oh, now we're talking. It's I still get chills when I think about it. It's so good. I'm just gonna wrap it up with this because I think it's worth mentioning. So we already talked about how this was again done by Christopher Nolan, and it was also it was Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan. Both of the brothers wrote this together, which is a very nice little note. It was also produced by the same people. Charles Roven got back into. Christopher Nolan also produced this one. Emma Thomas was a producer as well. The budget for this, I think they did okay. The budget for this was $185 million. At the box office, it did over $1 billion.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a profit, folks.
That's a big time one.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a smidgen.
And a little one.
And what's a fun fact about the budgets, we talked about this before. Christopher Nolan does not like CGI. That's another reason why these movies are so great, because they are that real. So props to him on that one. Like I said, it's going to be hard to knock this one off the top. I think they tried, but just it's going to be hard to follow this act, folks. What can we say other than that? They gave it one more go, though, in the Nolan era, and that was The Dark Knight Rises. This was done by both Christopher and Jonathan again, who were the writers. Produced by Charles Roven and Christopher Nolan, just those folks. The budget for this one was $230 million. And I have a feeling just that plane scene they do in the beginning of this was probably where a big chunk of that went.
Yeah.
But at the box office, don't worry about it. They made up for it. They did a little bit over $1 billion for this one, too. They actually did a little bit more than The Dark Knight Rises, which is crazy to think about. In this, of course, we have the Tom Hardy as Bane.
The Batman didn't murder Harvey Dent.
He saved my boy.
We also had Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, Selena Kyle. Marion Cotillard as Miranda Tate / Talia al Ghul. Yep. Joseph Levitt as Detective John Blake. So I'll just start off with this, and I'm going to hand it over to you two. Gents, it's going to be, like I said, how do you follow what they did before? And I remember thinking to myself, it's not going to be bad, but, you know, your expectations are now set so high. How do you manage that? So, Bob, why don't you start us off with this one?
Well, this movie actually holds a special place in my heart. And some of that was because I actually auditioned for a role in this movie. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I did. And I actually have some footage from my audition tape if you'd like to see that.
Please.
Let's see it.
Where's the trigger? Where is it?
Now, it turns out I wasn't quite right for the role, but I don't know. I thought I did a pretty good job on that one.
Where's the trigger? Where is it?
Beautiful energy.
Yes. So yeah, no, seriously though, I do like this film, but as I was telling Josh even earlier today, but we've talked about this on numerous occasions, there are some plot holes in this movie. And like it's simple stuff. Like, you know, he ends up in the prison and I thinking, you know, what is this wondrous prison medicine that they have, because they're able to fix a broken back like it's nothing. Yeah. You know, little stuff like that. Or he escapes the prison, and he has no money, but he's able to get halfway around the world with no problem within 24 hours. And so, yeah, there's some plot holes here and there, but I do like the movie. And I think as a whole, it's a decent ending to the Nolan trilogy. I do like the ending of the movie where you see Bruce Wayne at the cafe and with Anne Hathaway, and Michael Caine just kind of gives him a nod and just kind of moves on. So I liked that. A lot of people, when it comes to this movie, did not like Anne Hathaway. I actually liked her in the role. I thought she was fine.
She was good,
especially when she was in the suit. I liked that.
Oh yeah,
so,
round.
Nice. Yeah, so I did like that. And then of course Tom Hardy is Bane. I thought he was great. I know a lot of people had problems with the voice, but I thought it was fine. I enjoyed hearing him standing there saying, "Storm Blackgate, tear down this symbol of oppression." But man didn't murder Harvey Dent. He said, "My boy." So I still liked it. So yeah, I had fun with this movie.
And do you accept this man's resignation? Sorry, that's my favorite line. Maybe go.
No, I like that one. Yeah, I like that. And then where he's like, and he took the blame for Harvey's appalling crimes.
Oh God!
It must have been good if we're sitting here quoting the lines like that. They must have done
and it's a lot of little stuff, like when
Rocky
they're at the Gotham Exchange, and just little stuff that he says, where he's like, "We're going mobile." Just the way he enunciates certain things.
Yep,
you were merely adopted by the dark. I was born into it, molded by it.
Melded by it. So good.
That's a little exaggerated, but
yes, but that's the beauty.
All right, we'll get to me. So I liked it. I didn't love it. I agree with Bob. Lots of continuity issues. Like he literally travels around the world with no money and then is right there. My other thing that Bob did not mention is, so Nolan had built up this fantastic franchise. It was Batman Begins just starting out. Then what was it, 2 years later, him fighting the Joker and all that. And then all of a sudden he, says, "I'll take the blame for Harvey Dent's death." And he disappears. And he's retired for 8 years. And I just thought that was just weird. I don't think he had to do that.
Well, they do explain it in the film, and I do agree with you, Josh. They probably didn't need to happen, but it wasn't just that he retired. He actually had some injuries, because he's still walking around with a limp, and that was from the fall.
Right.
And then of course he gets the magic knee brace. Turned around and fixed
that he can kick. Yeah. Right. And so, it's Bane I did like. I think I've told you both. I kind of wish they had done the comic book, The Man Who Broke the Bat, where it was very isolated and, Batman was fighting for months, and then Bane overtakes Wayne Manor and takes out Batman. I think that would have been good. But again, this is the whole thing where we've talked about many movies where, just a couple weeks ago, Rocky IV being fantastic, and then you have Rocky V. A show that, I don't know if you watched, Derek, Bobby and I watched 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, and season 5 was phenomenal, and then season 6 followed. And it's like,
a lot of
you
people
do stuff, and the other thing is, what we didn't mention was, and I don't know if people know this, originally this was not the storyline for The Dark Knight Rises. It was going to be the trial of the Joker.
Yeah.
And Heath Ledger's death really changed everything. So maybe it would have been as good as Dark Knight. But yeah, I just didn't think, again, I liked it. I've watched it, many times. Yeah, I don't know if Joseph Gordon-Levitt, if he was going to end up, they refer to him as Robin. I don't know what would have happened. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I think it could have been better. There were parts I really liked in it, and there were parts, that I was like, okay. One of my favorite parts is when he comes back and he tells Gordon, light it up. And the bat symbol is in flames. And you have Bane saying, impossible. Bring her. She will come to me. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, man, I'm almost wondering if I should go back and give this a watch just on its own, because I think you guys are right. It is good, right? It's not bad. It's entertaining. You can have fun with it for sure. I love the fact that they made Bane like methodical. I love that he was not only like a man made of muscle, but he was an educated man, or at least that's how they kind of made it seem like he was smart as much as he was strong, which is what made him very, very interesting. At least Tom Hardy's version of it. Yeah, Anne Hathaway, not bad. Did a good job. No complaints. I love the idea of Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Robin. I thought that was very well cast. That was a good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, okay. One more thing I want to give a nod to: that image in the courthouse when the criminals and everybody's fighting, and like Batman and Bane are fighting. That's an amazing sight. Like that is a really, really well done piece of business, and it's one that definitely stays in your head after you watch the movie. And it was a great way to kind of end the trilogy, just with a big battle in front of where justice is supposed to be served. And what's also interesting is that they're fighting during the day, not fighting at night.
Yeah.
No.
So that was a nice little twist on that too. It's good. I may want to revisit it just because maybe I still hold it too close to The Dark Knight. Might be good to get a little bit more distance on it. This came out in July 20th, 2012, by the way, so it was 4 years apart from the first Dark Knight with Heath Ledger. But maybe it's worth checking out again. It's good. It's certainly not a bad movie. Go out there and have fun with it. Enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that ends the big eras. There are some eras that follow this, and they're much shorter than the trial that we've gone on here. The first one has to do with the Snyder Era, the Zack Snyder Era. Batman in this series is actually Ben Affleck. That's right, folks. I said Ben Affleck. I want that to sink in. Ben Affleck. All right? Now that we've discussed that, there are two movies that Ben Affleck was, well, technically three. We'll get into that in a minute. But the first one was actually Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. And the second one was the Justice League. Talking about Batman versus Superman, that one came out March 25th, 2006. There are a couple of recurring characters that happened during the Snyder era as well. One of who I really came to appreciate was Diane Lane as Martha Kent. Shout out there. Another one who is not hard on the eyes, who is very nice, is Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Thank you, Amy. You also have Henry Cavill in this one as Superman, Clark Kent. And Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, which is an interesting choice. And you know what? Jeremy Irons as Alfred. No disrespect there. Love
that was good.
And of course, Gal Gadot showing up as Wonder Woman. Shout out.
She's a goddess. What can I say?
Absolutely right. She's a goddess. Throw that lasso on me. I'll tell you all the truth that you need to hear. So, written by Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer, produced by Charles Roven and Deborah Snyder. I believe that's his wife, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah. This one had a budget. Talk about another range here: 250 to 325 million.
Wow.
But they made profit in spades. This one did 874.4 million at the box office, so not too shabby. I'm going to let you guys go first. Just tell me what you think, because maybe I'll learn something here. Who would like to start?
I'll start. I don't think you're going to like me. I don't think you're going to like me at all, because I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. And I'll tell you why. He reminded me of the Batman and Bruce Wayne from the Batman the Animated Series. He just had something about him and the look and the chemistry he had with Jeremy Irons and Alfred. I enjoyed. I would say my two favorite Batmans are between Affleck and Michael Keaton. I'm sorry, Derek. I'm sorry. You're not happy. I know. But I
That may have
really
been
liked.
one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard you say. And I've known you for a long time.
I'm telling you, I thought that Batman v Superman was not a good movie. The theatrical cut, the extended version is better. And I really thought Ben Affleck carried that movie. And I really liked what I saw with him. I'm sorry. I know you're upset about it, but I just thought he did a great job as it. And, you had a little of his, science, and then you had him, with the working out and the cool looking Batmobile and figuring out the Portuguese, the boat and everything. I thought he did a really good job. But now I'm a little afraid to talk to you. So, Bob, go ahead.
Well, Derek, I'm sorry to tick you off here, but I actually liked him in the role too. So, like I agree with Josh. I think he does have the closest look to the animated series. Now, is he my favorite Batman? No. Christian Bale is my favorite Batman, but I thought for what the Snyder films are, I think he did a good job, and it's actually even more than 3 films if you want to include his brief cameo in Suicide Squad, his appearance in The Flash as well. So he did get a couple other little appearances as Batman, but the thing with this is that he never got a real a true Batman movie, because Batman v Superman has it's a very ambitious movie because it has to be a Man of Steel sequel while also being a Batman movie, yet while also launching the Justice League. It was an ambitious movie, and a lot of that has to do with the studio pressuring Zack Snyder to try to get caught up with Marvel. And so you get a movie that has a lot of holes, and for that reason, I like the extended cut better, the Ultimate Edition. I think that has it answers some simple questions, like just in the movie, for example, there's a scene where that guy in the wheelchair or the wheelchair gets blown up there where Superman's talking before Congress, and it kills a bunch of people. And it's like, well, how did Superman not see it? He's Superman. Well, in the extended cut, it just something real simple. They say that the wheelchair was made out of lead. I'm like, oh, okay, that answers that question. So it's a little stuff here and there that's taken out of the films. But in Batman v Superman, there is a scene that I think is arguably the best Batman scene on film, and that is that warehouse scene. I think that looks extremely good, and I just love the way he moves, the way he fights during that scene. And so overall, I like that particular scene. The movie itself, not great. Again, the Ultimate Edition is better, and I think the Ultimate Edition is actually a decent film.
Martha, why are you saying that name? And then 5 minutes later, oh, I'm a friend of your son's. I just tried killing him, but I'm a friend of your son's.
Yeah, that was the problem that I had with Batman, is they made him so harsh in the film, to where it was a little overdone, and then they try to use Superman to kind of bring him back, and I don't think that really gets executed very well. The other thing I like, and I forgot to mention this, I like the suit. I do wish the ears were a little bit bigger, but I like the fact that he's actually got a gray suit. And so it's closer to the comic book look as far as the color scheme. So I do like that. The film's got a lot of problems, but Ben Affleck himself, I think, is fine.
Okay, Derek, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
In the Justice League, there's a hero there named Cyborg, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, why is Ben Affleck talking like one then? Why?
Yeah, no. I can totally understand where you're coming from. I actually thought that the addition of that voice box was fine, but I I prefer without it.
Yeah, that served. It annoyed me more than anything. Okay, so that's the first piece of this. The second piece: if Batman fights Superman, who wins?
Superman.
Done. Enough said. That we don't need a movie then. We don't need a movie. And
you're forgetting something. Batman with preparation beats everybody. That's what people who defend Batman say, that with prep time, Batman can beat them all.
With kryptonite, you can beat Superman. Well done.
What he had, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Superman.
But if he doesn't have that, he's done. Okay, that's it. No more. I also just didn't buy another part of this that was hard for me was Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. I did not buy that. Did not work for me. And now maybe that's why you guys give him a nod, because maybe you did. I didn't. I thought Val Kilmer played a better Bruce Wayne than Ben Affleck did.
Shut up!
That's right. Thank you. Go ahead.
So gotta get you on that one. I'm sorry. Ben Affleck was fine.
All right. Says you.
Well, he was better than Val Kilmer.
Okay. No, I will tell you some parts that one more part I didn't like. Jesse Eisenberg, you're excused. You don't need to be here.
No, yeah.
I agree with that. God, I agree.
He played Lex Luthor was too eccentric.
Yeah.
The way he played him. I didn't like it.
No, that's not how it works with him. He's just an evil genius. The end. Now, what I did like, until what we're going to talk about next, was the fact that Gal Gadot did get introduced as Wonder Woman. And she was perfect. She had been a long, outstanding character that people were waiting for. And they finally got it. So that was great. Right. I love the scene when Batman basically shows Wonder Woman on, through the computer, the other Justice League characters.
Yeah.
That's some origin stuff, Josh. So with that,
I like that. Yeah.
That was good. Other than that, no, sorry. It didn't work for me, guys. But okay, I appreciate your opinion.
That's fine, Derek. You can be wrong. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll gladly be wrong. We're that like a badge of honor. All right. Let's talk about the next one. Boy, we were thinking we were on the right track here, but then this happened. The Justice League came out, and not the Zack Snyder one. We're talking about the one that happened before that, actually. November 13th, 2017 was when this came out. And unfortunately, this film sounded like it had problems kind of from the get-go, and it certainly didn't help that Zack Snyder lost his daughter during this time.
Right.
Very, very.
The problem is the studio turned around and used that as a way to remake the film after he left.
Yes, and that's when Josh Whedon showed up, and boy, things took a turn from there. All right, so this was written by Zack Snyder originally. Joss Whedon was uncredited with it, and probably should stay that way. Charles Robin, Deborah Snyder, John Berg, Jeff Johns were the producers for the film. This had a budget of $300 million. Boy, then they need every cent of that. And the box office, well, it did money, $661.3 million.
Well, maybe not. Even when you factor in the marketing, and the theater cut itself, they might, and we're saying might, have broken even.
Maybe. That's a good point. A lot of these folks you already know. We already talked about Henry Cavill as Superman, Amy Adams, Lois Lane, Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, The Flash.
Josh likes it.
Yeah. There's that. Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry, Aquaman. Ray Fisher, Victor Stone, Cyborg. Jeremy Irons again as Alfred. J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, who we're familiar with on this program. Shout out to Bob on that.
Where you been? Looking for you all morning. Why don't you pay your phone bill?
Get some of those cocktail weenies.
And Ciaran Hinds as Steppenwolf in this one. Okay, you know what? I'll go first on this one. There is a part of me that wants to be a little bit of an apologist with this, because after you find out what happened with Zack Snyder, it's already taken, a bad turn. To Bob's point, the way they use that, also bad. it kind of was facing an uphill battle before it even, had a chance to really get going. This was also at the time when MCU was doing everything right, and it was going to be hard to even try to compare. So it just was an uphill battle from the get-go. And there are a couple of these characters I really do like. Like we already talked about Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. That's great. And I don't think Jason Momoa is a terrible Aquaman. He's got his moments there.
I don't like the look.
Well, but you like the Flash?
No, I don't. No. Bobby was joking.
I thought he was serious.
Bobby was joking. No. I think Grant Gustin from the CW show should have been the Flash.
Got it. Yeah, it's tough watching something like this because it's almost as if it was kind of set up to fail, and it's a hard thing to say, but that's all I can really say about it. I'll let you guys go.
All right, I'll say one thing about this movie, and then I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, this movie was a monstrosity. No, I'm serious because you essentially, I heard somebody else say it this way, and it's very true. You've got two different visions because you've got Zack Snyder's vision, and then Joss Whedon comes in and tries to refilm everything with everything, and you get footage from one vision that doesn't mesh with the other. Ben Affleck looks like he put on 50 pounds in between the two films. And it's true because he was no longer in shape for Batman because he was already done with it. And then he had to come in for these reshoots to reshoot the film. And he looks different than what he does, say, when you go to the Snyder Cut version of it. So that's all I got to say. I didn't like this.
Okay. Way to keep it short. We've been here a while, so we appreciate the.
I'll keep it short. I thought it was okay, mostly because how Superman was portrayed in this one. I liked Superman in this one, but as far as Batman and Ben Affleck,
why?
It was okay. It was okay. I don't know. It was something about it. You know what? To quote,
I like how Superman was portrayed. I like truth and a whole lot of justice. Come on, gosh.
You know what? I'm going to quote somebody I know for a very long time, Robert Franklin Smith Jr. It's okay to like a bad film.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't mind it. Okay. So I know we're running out of time, but go ahead.
It's a bad film.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Right. Yeah, we can leave that alone. Just one quick note here. There was another Zack Snyder Justice League that did come out. It's kind of hard to remember because theaters weren't open during that time. We were all a little locked down, a little thing called COVID. But this actually did come out on Max on March 18th, 2021. And the budget for that one was $70 million. It's all the same characters. It was written by Chris Terrio again. Zack Snyder, this is his vision and his alone.
Right.
So the only character that's really new in is Willem Dafoe playing one of the Atlanteans. Everybody else is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But I thought it was worth checking out. If nothing else, it gave me something to do when there wasn't anything to do. So on that alone, it's great. But to Bob's point, he said this before, Zack Snyder is exactly like spicy food. You have to really, really like it if you're into it. But if you guys want to give any type of mention about it, go ahead, and then we'll get to our final piece of justice here.
Yeah, I liked the Snyder Cut. It's a much better film. Everything about that film is better than what we got with the Joss Whedon version. I was watching that with my oldest son, and he came over so we could sit there and watch it. And we were 10 minutes into the movie, and I looked at my son and I said, "This is already better." Yeah. I don't know why this didn't come out. Mm-hmm. How in the world that the studio thought that Justice League was better than Zack Snyder's version of it. I don't know how they could even think that. Now, again, is the Snyder Cut perfect? No, it's got some problems, just like a lot of Zack Snyder's films. But but I just happen to like a lot of his films. But this, I actually think, is really good. And I think you mentioned this in one of our other shows, Derek, how it was broken down into these different chapters. So as a whole, I liked what they did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I loved the Snyder cut. I thought it was very well done. I have a question for both of you. So Bruce Wayne's home. So Wayne Manor is in disarray and he lives next door to it?
That's my understanding, yeah.
That's how, I think that's how.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. Love that dream sequence at the end with Jared Leto and interesting. I don't know how that movie would do, if they did a third Justice League or a second, whatever you want to call it, but it was good. All right.
Yeah, that's go check it out. If you got Max, it's worth it.
Yeah.
We'll go quick on this one because we've talked about it in a previous, it might have been our first piece of our journey here around talking about the Batman in this series. This is actually the one that is directed by Matt Reeves. If you're not familiar with Matt Reeves, he's done a couple of the Planet of the Apes movies. I think he did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Dawn, right?
He did both.
Oh, he did do both. Okay.
Yeah. And this one was actually written by Peter Craig and Matt, and it was produced by Matt. So he hit the trifecta. Directed, wrote, and produced it. Produced it with his good friend Dylan Clark. The budget on this one was 185 to 200 million. And the box office, they covered some tracks, 772.2 million.
Nice.
So that's not so shabby. It's pretty good. And this also came out after a bunch of problems, like we talked about.
Right.
But the cast is still pretty good here. Robert Pattinson is Bruce Wayne. Zoe Kravitz is Selena Kyle, Catwoman. Paul Dano is the Riddler. Jeffrey Wright is Commissioner Gordon, which was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis is Alfred, who I love Andy Serkis. And then Colin Farrell as Oz Cobblepot, which was great.
Yes.
This movie's worth checking out. Like I said before, it's a psychological thriller. It's a different Batman just on that alone.
Definitely.
And we're checking out just on, I think, that notion. But if you guys just want to recap your thoughts on it real fast, and then we'll get to the future and what it will hold.
I'll go. I loved it. Was Bobby knows this. I was very skeptical about Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne / Batman, but he was pretty good. It was definitely a different take. Jeffrey Rush as Commissioner Gordon. I thought he did a really good job. I liked him. I loved the opening scene. Big surprise where, he's documenting everything and talking, and then the guy's in the subway, and then you hear him come through the dark, and it just was very well done. Riddler was good. I was glad that he finally got recognition and was done in a very psychotic way, which is how he was in the comics. And I thought the whole movie was done very well. The Batmobile was pretty cool. That scene with Oswald Cobblepot was pretty cool. Colin Farrell as the Penguin did an amazing job. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman was very well done. Just a good movie. I'm excited for the second one to come out, which was supposed to come out next year, but here we go, 2 more years. So yeah, we all know how I feel about that.
Hurry up.
Real fun. All right, go ahead, Bob.
I thought Pattinson did a fine job. I wasn't worried about him because I had seen some of his stuff since Twilight, and so some of that stuff was pretty good. He actually had a role in Christopher Nolan's Tenet, and I thought he was pretty good in that. And some of his other stuff since then, I think, has been pretty good. So I thought he would be fine. Now, I don't think he's necessarily the best Bruce Wayne, and it has to do more with the look.
Yeah.
But I did like him in the role as Batman. And overall, I thought this was a good film. I do like that it's different from the others, and it does a lot of things right. There's some good casting. That Batmobile chase scene is very good, well done. I thought it's one of the better Batmobile chase scenes that have been in any of the movies. So as a whole, I liked this movie. I'm like Josh. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I do hope they kind of change his look up a little bit, because I do think that maybe it was fine for necessarily this movie, but since the next one's supposed to have somewhat of a little time jump, I do think that it would be better to see him more as kind of the billionaire playboy, to kind of adopt that persona. And maybe that's kind of what they were hinting at towards the end, where he was saying that he realizes he's got to do this a little bit differently. So maybe he'll kind of adopt that persona and become more involved as Bruce Wayne. You mentioned, Josh, the opening sequence. The opening is arguably the best opening of any of the Batman films. I think that is a really good sequence where he's narrating the whole thing and like you said, documenting it, and this whole build up to when he takes out all those gang members there at the subway. And so overall, I thought there was some things done right with this film, and I liked it.
Nice.
Yeah. There really only was one big complaint I heard about, and Bobby kind of touched on it. It was the fact that Batman was a little too emo, a little too hipster. And to that point, that's what would be good to see in the second one. If they get to the second one, we get the billionaire playboy. I'm not going to hate on it. If that's what you want to do first, go ahead. Yeah.
Another thing, real quick. I think the soundtrack to this film is really good.
Yes.
Yeah, good call.
Smashing Pumpkins, right, Derek?
That sounds right. Actually, let me check on that. Hold on.
No, just like the original score, like.
Oh yeah.
Just the theme for Batman in this, I think, is really good.
Yeah,
I love the score for this film.
Yeah, it's really, like we've talked about. It's a different take on Batman, but a worthwhile take for sure.
Yeah.
All right, now finally, our final order of business here is going to be talking about where the future goes, because it is going to be James Gunn's turn to take a crack at this. It is going to be. I don't know if it's not as the first one James Gunn is doing is Superman, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is coming after that. All right. So
Superman.
We're not entirely Kneel before Zod. Stop that.
We're in the witching hour.
Shut up!
Oh.
Right. You know what? Bobby's gonna do it.
Here's how we'll do this, guys, because I think it's a good way of tackling it. We'll each go around and we'll talk about what we think Gotham should look like, who we think could play a great Batman, what we think the story should be, maybe, and who should play some of the villains. What do you guys say to that?
All right, sounds
That's
good.
Fine.
All right,
I'll go.
Yep.
I think Jensen Ackles could play Batman because he's an established Batman. I think the villains. I think you have to bring in Joker. You have to bring in Penguin. I'd be curious to see Clayface. We've never seen Clayface. Pods just died on me. Great. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I think I would like to see. God, who else haven't we seen? There's so many. Heck, even like Bobby's mentioned Victor Zsasz. That would be kind of interesting to see.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
So I like your idea of Jensen Ackles. I've said that he would be fine as an established Batman. Now, I have to preface that because Josh is pretending like he had this great idea with Jensen Ackles as an established Batman. No, he's been wanting him to play an origin Batman for years, but I just think he's too old to play an origin Batman. Now, from my understanding, where this is going to be an established Batman because he's got a Robin. He's going to have Damian Wayne. Now, Damian Wayne's his son, and for Damian Wayne to be Robin, he's going to have to be about 15, 16 years old. So that means we're having an established Batman here. So I'm fine with Jensen Ackles. I do like the idea of having more from the Rogues Gallery. I don't think we need the Joker for this right now, at least not for this movie, because you've also got Joker 2 coming out. So let's do something different. I've always like this idea of having an opening sequence with Victor Zsasz, with some people hostage, ready to do them in and add some marks to his body. And then all of a sudden you see Batman come crashing through like the window or something like that and stopping it. I've always seen that as kind of a cool opening. And I think I'd love to see Victor Zsasz. And then for the main villain, give me a proper Mr. Freeze.
That'd be cool.
Can I give you a suggestion on that one? I was talking with Josh about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I thought about him. You guys know who Mads Mikkelsen is?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Freeze. Shave his head and put him in a freezer and have him operate out. That would cut the mustard. That would be perfect.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Bob, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No. Yeah, I think give me a Mr. Freeze. And then maybe if done right, you could see some of these other characters in there. Maybe see a Mad Hatter or some of these others. Josh, I don't know if you've seen it, Derek, but there's a Batman short film out there that was done by Bat in the Sun Studios. It's called Dying is Easy. And in fact, I was actually part of I did some financial contribution to their Indigo project when they were getting it started. So my name's actually in the credits as one of the supporters for it. So I thought that was cool. But anyway, I thought that was cool. But in that particular movie, they have an opening sequence with the Mad Hatter. And the way that it's done extremely dark. I don't really want to go into it because it's actually too dark for this show. But it's done extremely dark, and I think it works really well. So the Mad Hatter can actually be done properly if you want to get dark with it. And so I'd be curious to see something like that.
Good call. All right. So I'm not sure if we know exactly what the plot of The Brave and the Bold. Am I getting that right?
We don't.
We don't? Okay. So we're not sure if it's supposed to be an older one or a younger Bruce Wayne at this point?
I'm assuming it's going to be older because, again, he's going to have a Robin, and it's supposed to be Damian Wayne. So being that it's supposed to be Damian Wayne, who is his son, that means Damian Wayne has to be about 15, 16 years old to be Robin. Maybe you could get away with him being 13 or 14. But so my point is Batman has to be somewhat older. I would say probably mid to late 30s.
So then the story kind of takes care of itself then, because that has to be the story about a father and a son and becoming superheroes together. What in God's name does that look like? The fact that his son wants to be a superhero when his father has to basically help him risk his life. It's the struggle between the two. And with that, you don't exactly know where Damian Wayne's mother comes into that situation either. So there's something to be said about that. Uh-oh. Josh, power out on us. All right.
That's all right.
There he is. Okay.
Yeah. No, that was weird. All
right. So that will be the story. I think it should actually be. I think Gotham should play into it again, just because.
Oh yeah.
The idea of Gotham is and I think James Gunn is probably thinking this too. He's always really good with his set design and making sure that things look, a certain way. So I would like to see it kind of look like Scotland. I've actually been there. It's as if Tim Burton. It's like Tim Burton, only more real. That's the only way I can explain it. There's a lot of old buildings and castles, and things look like they're decaying. If you put some rain on that could easily be Gotham and be its own separate entity, which I think would be great.
I agree with the castles, like for Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that. I think so for like in downtown, you need something gritty, dark, kind of like what Matt Reeves did for his Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think, Bob?
I agree. I do think that it needs to feel like a character. Now, I don't think necessarily you need to go completely with that gothic type gargoyle look, but I mean, but I do think it would work if you did it. I actually think you could do something kind of like what they've done in the Batman with Pattinson. I think Gotham looks pretty good there, so I think you could do something like that and get away with it. But y'all's ideas would work just as well.
Yeah,
Cool.
There was I think the Nolan era. Gotham was actually Chicago.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. That
And Pittsburgh.
Gotham actually has a good look in Batman Begins, but when you get to the Dark Knight and you get to the Dark Knight Rises, it's Chicago. I think in for the most part for the Dark Knight, and then they use New York and Chicago both. I think for the Dark Knight Rises.
No, they actually use Pittsburgh.
Well, they use Pittsburgh for some, but look at some of those shots. That's New York.
Yeah,
I think it was like on the ice,
the shots with the bridges and stuff like that when they're blowing the bridges and stuff like that. That's New York.
No, that's Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh has many bridges.
I'm pretty sure that's New York. I could be wrong.
Look it up.
Well, I'm not saying they didn't use Pittsburgh. Of course they used Pittsburgh because that's where the stadium took place.
Oh yeah, I'm way off base.
No, Josh, that doesn't work.
No, it does not.
Not in the House of Matumbo.
You do this every time, and I really don't understand as to why. You just gotta put a sour note on everything. Just you think I ruin things, dear Lord.
Bob's working on it because he got very quiet.
No, I'm looking at it right now. It says that it was that. Okay, production utilized Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, New York City,
LA,
New Jersey. That's what I'm telling you. Is that there's a lot of shots that are done with New York.
But LA got in there too.
Yeah, I didn't know LA. I wonder where in LA.
Oh yeah, I'm way off base.
No, you are way off base. You're not even.
Shut up!
No, I'll get back to my ramble now. Just to keep us going, just to save Josh from another bullet. Right.
A colossal meltdown.
Yep. So we know the story, and we know kind of what Gotham, how that would look. For Batman, I actually thought of two different ones, only because I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be younger or older. But now that we know it's supposed to be older, my younger one was actually going to be to redeem himself from that movie, The Eternals. It's actually the guy who plays Icarus. I think his name is Thomas Whitten, something like that. It's the British guy.
Oh, shoot.
Let's see.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. He played in Game of Thrones.
Yes, thank you.
Let's see. Richard Madden.
Richard Madden. So I nailed it. Thomas Whitten. Anyway,
yeah, you were extremely close.
Extremely close enough. It sounds British. Anyway, and the other one I was actually going to choose for Batman was going to be Michael Fassbender, just as an older one. But
maybe it depends maybe on how old Batman's supposed to be in this.
Yeah, I was actually doing some reading to see what other people thought. Somehow Jake Gyllenhaal's name got thrown in there.
Oh, for many years.
Yeah, I don't. Do you see that? No, exactly.
Probably not.
All right. So then for some villains, I already threw out Mr. Freeze, and I thought that was a pretty good choice. But let's get a little bit. I'll throw out some others, and let's see what your thoughts are on it. I actually do think you could do Poison Ivy, but almost as like a, like basically as like this seductive, like kind of. It's basically like a woman who's trying to trap Bruce Wayne and kind of like screw him over in the end because she finds out something about because when she wants his money or has different ideas about a criminal empire, and that's where the Batman part could come in. And if you're going to do that, just in terms of making it a little steamy, shall we say, I think Jessica Chastain could play Poison Ivy pretty well.
Okay, that could work.
I like that.
I love them redheads, man. I also thought that, again, I'm a big Two-Face guy. I don't know if you necessarily need Two-Face for this one too, only because we've seen it a few times now, and like Bob said, you could probably save it for later. But I thought Jeffrey Dean Morgan would make a pretty good Harvey Dent.
Could be.
Yep. I think he's a little rough around the edges, but that's also what will make him a good Two-Face. Starts off polished and then gets
Thomas Wayne.
Do you think
Well, that's why they had him as Thomas Wayne in Batman v Superman, because everybody always said that he would be a great Thomas Wayne and play that Flashpoint Batman.
Yep. Yeah. And then, good call, Bob, on leaving the Joker alone. We can let that one breathe a little bit. I do like the idea of Clayface. I don't know how you would do it.
CGI.
Well, yeah, but you're going to have to get very crafty and make sure it's a good story and it doesn't look too goofy.
Yeah.
To really pull that off.
What about Man-Bat? Man-Bat could be interesting.
Same thing. Again, goofy. I don't know if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
And James Gunn hasn't even announced like what he's going to do for villains.
Right now he just needs to get Superman right, because if he doesn't get Superman right, then the rest of everything is dead on arrival after that.
Yeah. Well, then let's give him time to work on Superman, shall we?
Yeah, he needs to nail this one.
Yeah. James, no pressure. Good luck. All right. Well, guys, we've run the gauntlet, and
we did.
But there was a lot to cover. And I'm going to sum it up by saying that I think the main reason that we love Batman is because it's a story at its core about understandable revenge.
Yep.
And it's how you overcome that. And that's exactly how Batman comes to be. And that is my salute. I will let you guys have your salute right now. Which one wants to go first?
Go ahead, Bob.
I love the character. I love this idea of this man who, he was wronged as a child and he doesn't want to see anybody else go through that, and he wants to protect. And at the same time, he wants those that, harm others to be afraid, for them to experience what it's like to have fear. And so I just love the character.
Yeah.
Same here. Love it. Love that he stands for vengeance. Loves that he strikes fear in his enemies. And, he comes from from a wealthy family, and he had it all. And in one night it was all taken away, and he never forgot that. And he did everything in his power to change and to fight crime and to make those villains pay and clean up Gotham.
Batman, Bruce, a salute to you from all of us here at Dad's Turn to Talk. Forever and ever. All right, let's do a little social media, and then we'll finally get the heck out of here. All right, Bob, why don't you go first?
You can find me over at YouTube. If you search Was It Good at Bob Loves Movies, you'll find me there, and you'll see my logo. And I'll put the link in the description below.
Very good. Josh, to you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm under Family Man of the Valley. I'm a realtor here in beautiful Southern California.
Very good. You can catch me on that seat that goes up the stairway, that where old people can't actually take the stairs, over on LinkedIn. And
you're gonna have to wait your turn, though, Derek.
I know. On Facebook. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. That was a heck of an episode.
Great show.
Yep. Thanks, guys. And you have yourselves a good evening.
Good night.
Guys. Talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.